What do you got for me?
What's wrong with you people?
I got nothing for you.
What's wrong?
You're not David. How y'all feel this morning? I feel what? That's how I feel. Well, that was enough for me. We could have had the benediction right there. That was so good.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to The Reformatory, the podcast for the local church and by the local church, and we are your local churchmen. My name is Josh, and I'm here, as always, with Captain Jack. My man,
sir.
What's happening? It's good to see you.
Hey. Good to
How are
see
you?
you.
Yeah.
Doing well, Josh.
Good.
Josh and I were Marcoing today because I had to
As we
talk
do.
to as we do as soccer moms,
That's
soccer
right.
mom friends.
That's us. Yeah. We are
have-
your resident Reformed podcast soccer mom team.
This is
Yeah.
very true. We do have soccer mom tendencies like this, but
We do.
in any case, I had to talk to my manager today about a wage.
You went all
increase.
Karen. You went all real soccer mom. You called the manager.
I want to talk to the manager.
I want to
all
talk to the manager. No one's getting Capri Suns and apple slices until I talk to the manager. Yeah. Why'd you have to call the manager, Jack? What happened?
Well, I mean, there was a lot of things going on. I mean, my wife and I are having our first child, our son, coming in June.
You are.
So there's that, and accounting for inflation and accounting for performance over the last year and stuff like that. So the least that I can do is throw it out there, and the least that they could say is either yes or no. So
and by that, throw it being, I need a little bit more cheddar.
yeah,
100%.
come give Papa Jack a little bit more.
That's right. That's right.
A little bit more potatoes and bacon here, people. Come on.
Potatoes and bacon. Okay. Hey, I'm not mad at it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'll see how those talks go. It's always, dude, it is one of the most awkward things, like asking for a raise. Like even when you know you deserve it. Like, your performance is, heads and tails above everyone else. You're consistent. Like, you check all the boxes. It's still, there's just something innate where it's just like, please, sir, may I have some more? It's just, I hate it.
Depending, and our organization is so big and so nationwide that, like, this literally conversation is just like starting that particular direction, because then the director of talent has to get involved, and then on top of that the VP of talent has to get involved, and then the VP of HR has to get involved,
all of them.
and so there's like layers
All the
to
managers.
all of this, all of them talking, consulting, asking
About you.
poking, prodding.
Yes, exactly. Evaluating. I don't know if I want to be under this scrutiny, yeah. Well, Jack, I know you deserve it. So I hope you get it.
I hope so.
because-
I gave 3 data points, and then I basically gave him a number, and I said if we can get close to that, that'd be great. Something along those lines, that'd be great. So
Yeah.
Anyway.
I am in the throes of trying to find a new car. I hate it.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's the worst.
So,
It's the worst.
did the insurance company give you some cashola, or
So they paid for a rental, as
Okay.
they should. That's all they've done so far. So I'm assuming they are still in the process of trying to find as low of a price as possible for the car that they totaled, and then that's what they're going to offer me, right? So I have not received a payout for the car yet, but I'm starting car shopping right now. So not fun, because cars these days, just like everything else, hecka expensive.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So
absolutely, and
It's a lot
especially
of
just
fun.
like used cars.
I know.
felt like used cars,
I know.
their prices have surged.
Yeah. So
over the last couple years. So
you know what I'm looking for, and I got some guys at church helping me out. I'm looking for. I'm not even kidding you. I'm looking for a Ford pickup truck, 1975.
Dang,
75.
You want to throw it back? You want to throw it back
I'm
old
going
school,
old school,
dude?
I want to kick it old school. I'm looking for 73, 74, 75 Ford pickup truck, not too high miles. They're out there, and actually,
Are they?
They are out there, and they're not that expensive. I mean, obviously because they're old, and most of them, aren't in that great a shape. But I don't mind getting something, that's a little bit of a fixer, because I'm just going to be putting around town with it. Yeah, I'm not going to be commuting with it. But we'll see. We'll see if it happens. But after getting, smashed in my vehicle and my 4-door basically turning into a 2-door, I kind of want something with a little bit more metal around me. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
So hopefully that pickup truck comes through.
Man, my first car when I drove around when I was 16 was a 1968 4-door Malibu, Chevy Malibu, and that thing was like a tank, dude.
I know.
Nobody on the planet was going to mess with me because they knew.
Yes, like you will win every encounter,
wins.
unless it's a semi truck,
I know,
right? You will win. You will win. I'm getting a call. Who's
wins.
calling me right now? Oh, Caleb Estel's calling. So Caleb, awesome dude. He's one of the deacons at my church. He's trying to help me find a car. So hang on. I might cut this out. Hold on for a second. Hold on.
Josh is like,
yo, Caleb?
Yeah.
Hey, just so you know, I'm right in the middle of recording Reformatory Pod. You're on the air right now.
Sorry. I'll call you back.
No, you're all good, man. You're all good. This is staying in the pod, though, just so you know.
oh my gosh.
That's fine.
All right, hey, I'll call you when I'm done. All right, bye.
Oh my gosh.
Caleb's awesome, dude. I love that guy. So, Jack, my friend, before we hop into our topic today, why don't you give us the Reformatory Cigar of the Week? What do you got?
Okay, so you know what? It's interesting because some people talk to some other people about branding and about cigar brands and everything like that. This particular cigar is interesting because I think for the amount of money that you're paying for this, it more than well adjusts for what you're smoking. So I went with the La Gloria Cubana. Ooh. La Gloria Cubana Classic Churchill. So there's
Churchill.
Yes, the
The
Churchill.
big dog.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
why I said that, why I wanted a Churchill, because, I mean, the taste of it was really unique. There are some Churchills that you smoke that really just have different flavor than the rest of the line. So this series by Gloria Cubana is called the Classic line.
Okay.
It comes in different vitolicizings. This particular one, though, was rated pretty mid-range in the 90s. And so I smoked it, it didn't have, so it had more of like a leathery kind of pecan taste up front with like a spicier finish.
Okay.
Pretty interesting tasting notes. But the fillers, Dominican, Nicaraguan,
classic.
binders Nicaraguan, wrapper is Ecuadorian Sumatran.
Okay. Oh.
It is a very interesting mix.
Yeah.
You don't hear a lot of that mix. Usually, what Josh and I smoke usually is pretty much puro Nicaraguans almost.
Yeah.
And then they're aged at different rates, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's definitely the vein.
Yeah. This one is, so like I said, filler is Dominican and Nicaraguan, binders Nicaraguan, and then the wrapper is Ecuadorian Sumatran. So, price point on this, $8.50.
for a Churchill.
For a Churchill, $8.50.
People, we do this for you. We are bringing you all the goodness. Dude, we brought you a Nicaraguan Churchill for $8.50? Yeah. No,
$8.50,
man.
people.
That's good stuff. This is why you listen to the pod.
So
Yeah.
the draw, I will say some notes. The draw is a little tighter.
Okay.
So I would do a cold draw before you start toasting, and then actually draw off that first light. But the burn, really good, even burn.
Okay.
So no
Here we
issues
go.
with construction. So 5 out of 5 people.
Love it.
$8.50 for a Churchill, y'all.
Yeah, that's hard to beat. That's hard to beat. Yeah, 100%. So that is the La Gloria Cubana Classic in the Churchill.
Yeah.
That, my friends, whether you've heard it here for the first time or not, that is the Reformatory Cigar of the Week. And you know what to do. Go and smoke to the glory of God. All right, Jack, my
Yes.
friend.
Yes.
You have a topic for us this week.
Yeah.
I say that as if you like it's a novelty. It's not. Jack is an equal part of this team, but this is one that you specifically talk. As we were talking through stuff today and things like that. Something specifically that you wanted to talk through. So I'll throw it over to you right now, man, and let us know what's up.
Yeah, I really wanted to discuss this idea of slander or gossip in the local church. Primarily, I've been seeing a lot of things on different, more, how do I say, high-vis podcasts, if you will. And it revolved around what interested me was there was a gal who was on a podcast. I'm not going to name names, but she was on a podcast. I think she has a doctorate, something along those lines. She was basically saying how if you leave one church or if you're being like spiritually abused, it was just odd to me because
Okay.
she equated something, and people can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but of what I was seeing is like she was basically saying if something happens to you in the church, you shouldn't go around saying, oh my God, and going on social media and doing this and doing that. And that's slander. And it's like, well, hold up. If your pastors are spiritually abusing you and you have witnesses,
Yeah,
that's not slander.
sure.
Now, there's a way to go about this that I think that maybe she should have clarified that would have been a little bit better.
yeah,
But I think that all too often in our culture, if somebody gets critiqued, it's to the level of you're slandering that person.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Sure.
So
Yeah.
I could give you an example. Josh and I on this podcast are not very fanfares of a certain church planting network.
Oh, I was scared. I'm like, where are you going with this? What?
Josh and I
Yes.
are not okay.
Yeah,
to be
sure,
very blunt,
sure.
Josh and I are
Acts
not very-
29.
Yes, Josh and
Yeah.
I are not fans of
Yeah.
Acts 29. Okay,
Yeah, no.
and people,
We've made that clear.
Yeah, and people could take that of what we talk about as, oh, well, you're slandering this church or you're
Sure.
gossiping. And I would say, no, it's a lot of different critiques because Josh and I have been through that ringer a couple different times in a couple different ways.
Sure.
And so I think I want to throw this. This is like the shoes on the other foot on this episode. Josh,
It
I'm going to
is,
throw it
yeah.
back to you.
Okay. All
What
right.
would you say are like some clear, definitive ways in which we see that it would be like no doubt slander or gossip in the local church versus a perceived critique of how certain Christian organizations are doing things and critiquing that versus an absolute slander or gossiping going on in the local church?
Sure. Yeah. No. I think that's an important distinction because I think we need to be able to identify both. And there is a difference between slandering somebody versus doing what we see the Apostle Paul doing in the early epistles, calling people out for the stuff that they're engaging in, right? We see Paul calling out groups of people by name, sometimes individuals by name, saying, hey, either y'all need to stop what you're doing and shape up, or, he's like, these guys over here, I've handed over to Satan.
Yeah.
That they may learn not to blaspheme. You just read
Yeah.
that and you're like, oh my goodness, like that is harsh, Paul, right? But he did it in an appropriate setting, right? So I think one of the major differences, I think you begin to see the differences when you see the people that are actually critiquing biblical sin in a biblical way versus just attacking like personality or someone's looks, right? Or things like that, right? Or often what comes with slander is making up things that aren't founded, right? So there's a difference between me calling out let's pick someone obvious, like Mark Driscoll, right? There's a difference between me calling out Mark Driscoll and saying, hey, this guy, the tendencies that he's shown need to be watched. He needs to be watched. And I don't think he's qualified for the position that he is in. There's a difference between me making that statement and supporting it with biblical facts and evidence and biblical concepts that we have in Scripture as to what the qualifications of a pastor are.
Yeah.
Versus me saying, well, I heard he cheated on his wife and he, struggles with alcoholism.
Yeah.
Because I don't have any evidence for that.
Yeah.
Right? That would be slanderous of me to do so, and that would one, it's bearing false witness, right? So I'm lying, right? And I'm slandering this person with statements that I have no evidence for. So there's a difference between me attacking Mark Driscoll in a way that is unfounded and unbiblical versus calling out biblical issues that are actually substantiated, right?
Yeah.
So we need to understand that is if we're going to keep people accountable as Scripture tells us to do, and leaders in the church must be held accountable, one by each other, two by the congregation, right? Then we need to understand how to do that correctly, and which is why we see in 1 Timothy when Paul's talking about bringing a charge against an elder, he has particular parameters that you need to follow.
Yeah.
All right. One, it's assuming that the charge is biblical.
Yeah.
And it needs to be corroborated by witnesses, right? So we see rules in Scripture as to what constitutes slander and what constitutes a real, truthful, honest, examination of something that's wrong.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say it starts with there. I think there's other things that feed into it, but if somebody's going to call someone or something out, it needs to be backed by Scripture. There needs to be biblical reasons as to why this is happening and biblical evidence to support the reason that they're calling it out. And I think people don't take that into consideration.
Sure.
I think in the day that we live in today, where it's, especially with social media, Jack, people will fly off the handle and they will slander everyone and their brother if it puts them in a certain camp or makes them look like a big sweetie to a certain constituents of people. And that's, I think, one of the problems that we're seeing. We can get more into that later because I actually have thoughts on that in a very current topic right now.
Oh yeah.
But I'll throw it back over to you. But those are some thoughts I've got.
Yeah, I just think that a current issue that's going on in the church in North America right now is I would say this, the uncovering of the rot that we're seeing in American evangelicalism when it comes to sexual abuse.
Sure.
And across the board of denominations, but I think one big denomination that's dealing with it that I don't think is dealing with it very well is the SBC.
Sure.
If you're in an SBC church, if you're not in an SBC church, I think that they have the most spotlight because there's so many.
Right.
I think not only victims that are coming forward of sexual abuse, but then you also have the perpetrators who are just going around and continuing to victimize people and sin and destroy congregations because they're not held accountable.
Sure.
And I think there's a difference. And somebody, I don't know if this was part of it, but this gal was kind of critiquing the ways in which some survivors of sexual abuse in the church were acting online. You know, and it's hard because in one sense, like those mostly women, but there are some men as well too, have been transgressed and sinned against in a massively it's just massively different than any other way that I think other sins happen.
Sure.
When you have a person who's in a position of power who sexually abuses you,
especially spiritual power.
Yeah, spiritual power too. It takes away a lot of things from you. It takes away your view of correct intimacy. It takes away the view of how you relate to people in positions of power, everything. And so to say that people who are speaking out against that are slandering their pastors, I don't know if that was the correct statement or not, but to say that sexual abuse victims, especially in the church, are slandering people, I find that hard to kind of like take in, because it's like they were the ones that were sinned against, and it's like,
well, and it's such a hard situation because and again, this, I'm not in the SBC. I'm not part of the SBC, but you know, that's the context that we're explaining this in, right? But you know, you can't, one sin doesn't justify another.
Sure.
Right. So you do have to be balanced in that. Yes, these individuals who were sinned against in horrific ways, have every biblical right and reason to call out the abusers and to bring sin to light. That needs to happen, right? But, and this is I think part of the conversation, Jack, that frustrates me, because what I'm about to say, like you can't, it seems like you can't say without somebody being mad at you, right?
Sure.
And yes, these people were sinned against. Absolutely. It needs to be called out. Like a reform needs to happen, and there needs to be new guidelines set up. All of that is true, right? Yeah. But it matters how it happens.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. You can't respond sinfully to someone that's sinned against you, right? We see that in Scripture, right? If anyone had the ability and the right to do that, or not the ability, excuse me, if anyone had the right to do that, it was Christ, right? And he didn't. And nobody is ever going to be sinned against more than Christ was sinned against. Yeah. And we see his example responding in grace and humility, right? He still called things out. He still responded in truth, right? But it seems like part of this conversation is that, and I think it ties in, is that for some reason, and I think social media has some things to do with it. I think just the fragility of people putting too much stock in emotionalism and things. I think there's a lot of reasons for this, but it seems like you can't have both. You can't advocate for balance without being called out by one of the other camps. Yeah. Right? Like if I call, for reform in the SBC, then there's a camp that's saying, "Oh, you're just a woke individual that, doesn't know what he's talking about," right? Yeah. But if I call for the abusers, or excuse me, those that have been abused, the victims, if I call for them to follow biblical mandates and biblical practice and respond biblically, well, then I'm called out for not being a supporter of the abused, right? And then it's just like, oh my gosh, like I can't win when these camps are here, right? Yeah. So in this conversation of slander, I think it's important to state that is like you have to, the rules don't change no matter where you are on the side of the table. Or wherever, side of the pendulum you're swinging on. Like the Bible's clear. Don't slander. Yeah. If you're going to call sin out, and it needs to be called out, do it biblically, right? Yeah. I mean, I just feel like that's an issue that I have with this whole conversation that I don't feel like a lot of people are allowing discussion to happen around.
Yeah, I think on top of that too, I think that I had a good conversation about reacting to things at work.
Oh, sure.
That may that may give you some short anger or something along those lines. We actually did a men's breakfast this last Saturday where we talked about anger. And
did you set the fire alarms off?
No, we did not.
You did not this time.
Not,
well
sir.
done.
We
Improvement.
Did not. So
excellent.
There's incremental improvement here.
There's growth. There's growth.
There's discipleship happening.
There is. It's happening.
So I would say that we talked about short anger. We talked about long anger. We talked about different other types of anger. The long anger was kind of equated to, people in America who are black or African American having to deal with slavery and racism and having that long anger throughout the history of them living in the country. We could equate that to like long anger to a certain extent. Okay. Or like short anger, where if I am involved with an email interaction with my manager and I feel like he just slighted me, and I get hot about that, that's like, and then hot anger is like you're really ticked for no particular reason, and it's going to lead you into a sin. I think there's kind of levels to this in which we have let slander kind of also, like, something will be said about us online, and we in our heart of hearts think that it's best to just like go at that person personally, which I don't think is wise at all, which is definitely no. It starts to lead you on a bad track. It starts to lead you, okay, I'm not really, but I think this is the day and time that we live in right now, is that it is looked down upon to talk about something civilly or to try and go about something in a civil manner versus I think that the lingua franca of today is basically, if you insult me, I got to hit you 3 times harder back. And more personal and more deeper, and then insult you in ways that hit you harder. Yeah. So that you're looked like the fool and I'm looked like the winner here. So I think that, gosh, that's really, so that's happening in our culture. And then you take that into the church. Imagine if there are members in your local church that are going through, one of your members in your local church maybe has sinned, maybe has done something that goes against your membership. Maybe they haven't showed up in a while. And then you start to do some little gossip, little slander here, little da-da-da. I just don't see that as a loving way to respond in a local church versus if you have stuff to say, it should be in a way in which your local church comes together. You basically shut everybody out who's not a member, and all the members gather together with your pastors on discipline in the church.
Family meetings.
And you talk about it right there. Versus we should not be talking about this outside of and in an incorrect manner, because that would start to create stuff that is just not healthy for that person who is going through either either who is getting sinned against or who is the perpetrator and the sinner against another person. Yeah. It just doesn't help those parties in those dynamics. So
No, it doesn't. Slander is such an insidious sin because it is, the motives of slander are always to make yourself look better than that other individual.
Yeah.
And because our pride is so ingrained into our old nature, we will stop at nothing until we have completely demolished that person to the point to where we look like the absolute antithesis of what we're trying to make them look like.
Yeah.
Right? And it ruins relationships. It ruins trust. It ruins closeness. It ruins the ability to be able to worship together in harmony. Slander in the local church has absolutely no place and no part.
Yeah.
Now, again, it's important that we make the distinction that what we are not saying is that you don't ever call stuff out.
Yeah.
Right? We've already made the distinction. Slander is not biblical truth telling. Right?
Yeah.
Slander is lies with a nefarious and an evil intention. right? So when we're slandering somebody, if I and it's always done, it's usually, I mean, I wowould say 99% of the time, it's always done behind the person's back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if I'm having a conversation with somebody, and they start, and I start slandering Jack for some reason, right? I don't, just because, I think his beard's better than me or something like that. And I'm self-conscious, right? Like I am showing in that moment that my love for myself, my love for my own agenda, my love for my own exaltation is not only greater than my love for Jack as a brother, but greater than the love that I have for Christ in that moment.
Yeah.
And if we begin to think of slander in those terms,
Yeah.
I think we would think twice before running our mouth against our brother or sister without biblical cause.
Yeah.
Jack, I'm seeing this, you mentioned the SBC thing, which is very true. There's slander on both sides. Like how things are, I think some pockets are handling it really well. I think some aren't. Right. And it's sad to me because I have a lot of brothers and sisters that are in the SBC that I love very much. And just knowing the pain and frustration that they're going through because it's their network.
Yeah.
Right. It's their well, I guess it's not a network. I guess it's a denomination. Their denomination, like they're sad about it. And I feel bad because that's hard. That's really hard to go through. Something else that I'm seeing that I think hits a little bit closer to home for you and me.
Okay.
Is all this Aquinas crap. Okay? It's not, it hasn't gone away.
No, it hasn't. No,
it hasn't gone away.
Oh,
and
my
this
gosh.
is what's frustrating. This is what's frustrating.
Yeah.
Is because with all of this, should you or shouldn't you listen to Aquinas or agree with Aquinas' view of God and, simplicity and God's emotions and all of this stuff, right? You have people on either side, right, that seem to forget that they agree on 99.9% of all the other important doctrine and theology that they believe in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there is so much slander being done on both sides.
Sure. Yeah.
Both sides. This isn't just a one side problem. Both sides.
Yeah.
Right? There are slanderous things being said about brothers and sisters on either side of the aisle, calling them out. Right? Saying, well, you're not actually 1689, or you're not actually fit to be a pastor, or you're not actually, because of their beliefs in Aquinas. And here's the thing, guys. It's not to that level.
Yeah.
All right? We need to be able and have to understand how to have a theological disagreement without slandering the other person. Because the minute that slander happens from either side, I don't care like this is for everyone in this.
Yeah.
The minute that slander comes out, you have lost all credibility to me.
Yeah.
I don't care what else comes out of your mouth. If you are slandering, if your tactic is to slander your brother or your sister on the other side of the argument, if slander is part of your tactic, I don't want to hear anything from you because you're not mature.
Yeah.
And you're not approaching this the way that you should. And that's another thing that slander does to the discerning person that sees slander. It causes them to not trust that individual, because if they slander this person behind their back, they're going to slander you behind your back.
Yeah.
Right? If I have the willingness to slander Jack behind his back to somebody, I'm going to have the willingness to slander that person to Jack behind their back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And we got to stop it. We are eating each other over this stupid argument. And I am tired of it because I have brothers that I love dearly on either side of this issue. And the crack shots that are being done and the slander that is being said is unacceptable.
Yeah.
It's biblically uncalled for. There's this is not worth it.
Yeah.
And before someone says, "Oh, you just don't understand the theological implications," buddy, I grew up at the feet of R.C. Sproul. I understand the implications of simplicity and God having emotions, all right, and Aquinas and all this stuff, all right? I understand the theological implications of these things. I still say it's not worth what's being done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Jack, like that to me, it's so sad.
Yeah.
Because all this slander that's being thrown around on this particular issue, and again, this is just one issue, right? This is an issue just across the board in the local church. But on this particular issue, like it's ruining relationships that could be incredible. The amount of progress that we could make as a unified body in this world that we live in, the advancements that we could see for confessional covenantal theology in Christendom today, if we would all just get our heads out of our rear ends and focus on what's really important, bro, it would be amazing. But no, we're talking about Aquinas. We're talking about practice. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about practice, right? We're talking about Aquinas. That's what we're talking about.
Throwing it old school, man.
Bro,
oh, man.
It's killing me, man.
Yeah.
It's just, this slander's got to stop, bro. It's got to stop.
Yeah. I think the problem is, too, is that we don't do it in a way that's going to be constructive. So I feel like, right
true.
now, we have all the opportunities and we have all the resources to get people on both sides of this conversation about Aquinas in a room for a weekend or a week or however long you want to take.
The fireworks, dude.
But we neglect,
it needs to happen.
Yeah, we neglect to do that because
like stop yelling on Twitter, look your brother in the eye, and have a convo.
But as we see in Scripture, time and time again, that is not how humanity wants to operate in our sin nature. It is time and time again. We want to lurk in the shadows. We want to conspire in darkness.
We want our slander,
and then we want vengeance on people who come against us in these certain ways. And it's petty, like to chalk it up, like the whole Aquinas thing, like. To a certain degree, on both sides, there are petty pop shots going on. Some people are I know people who totally love Aquinas and are just doing their thing and really just not caring about the noise.
Sure.
And then I have people who don't like Aquinas who are kind of in the same thing. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm going to go on being a Christian. And I'm like, great. That's awesome.
Yeah, let's all be more like those folks.
But a lot of the times, it is more the let's just fight and divide. Gosh, what is it? Okay, we got to nerd out for just a second.
Okay, all right.
Season finale of Mando, where she says the biggest issue with our people. I think it was the episode before the season finale.
Yeah.
It's like the biggest issue with our people is that we always want to divide each other or something along those lines. That's
home, dude.
That is like 21st century, 20th century Christians right now in North America.
That is, dude, even smaller. That's just reformed people, dude. Yeah. We are the reformed Mandalorians, and we just want to eat each other, dude. Like we could have this whole planet, man. All right, I'm sounding so post-mo right now. Like we could have ushered Jesus back by now if we had stopped talking about practice.
Man, if we could have just followed the creed, we would have had Mandalore by now, people.
Seriously, man, this is killing me. But look, to bring it back, slander's a problem, and it's a problem of the heart. It's a problem of pride and arrogance and lack of love for your brothers and sisters. And it has no place in the church. All right? If you see something that legitimately needs to be called out, right, in a brother or sister, if they've sinned against you or you see a pattern of destructive behavior, it's the loving thing to come alongside that person with the gospel, with the Bible open and say, hey, here's some things that I'm seeing, right? That is 100% different than just shooting shots over that person's bow, slandering them without any thought whatsoever to coming alongside them like Christians should.
Yeah.
Right? And that's probably the last thing that I'll say about it is slander. Slander's easy. Mm-hmm. Slander is so lazy because you get to call out the problems or the perceived problems without any thought whatsoever of shepherding or coming alongside that person and helping them. Right? It is the equivalent that Jack's been talking about of going on Twitter, shooting your shot, and then logging off. Like, I don't got to worry about that person's emotions. I don't got to worry about that person's, heart or their mind or their soul. It's not my problem. I can just shoot my shot and go on with my day. And that's what slander is.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most unloving things that we can do as God's people to each other. Because it's lying. I mean, ultimately, it lies about who Christ is. Right? And it's lying about the unity and the love that we are called to have for each other because of what Jesus did for us.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's one of those sins that is like often just kind of forgotten, kind of shoved under the rug, kind of socially acceptable.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like social media has made slander socially acceptable.
Yeah.
And we've just we have bought into the lie as the church, and I think we are now seeing the destructive consequences of that capitulation.
Yeah. Yeah, it just goes back.
Word.
Yeah. $10 word for you all today.
$10 word. Don't ask me to say it again.
No, it's just, I think it just goes back to just laziness. And you don't want to put in the work of loving your brother and sister, but you want to take the easy way out and just, put the bullet in the chamber and shoot versus, oh no, I actually have to construct an argument or I have to use scripture and confront this person in a way that, I mean, man, it's tough. I'm not going to lie. I have done this in a couple different occasions where I have had to confront men on their sexual sin in men's groups. And it's tough, man. It's tough because you love them, and I care about my tone and how I come across to them, and that I don't want them to feel like this is God's wrath through me coming to them. No. Like, if anything, like, this is God's loving righteousness that's being shown to them in the scriptures and being shown to them across biblical narrative and exegesis and everything like that to show them that there is standards and there is a way in which God wants us to live in order to flourish. Yeah. And if we go against that, we do need to have accountability. And that just doesn't go for church leaders. It goes for laymen as well. Yep. It's across the board. And when that accountability goes south, I think that's where I think we had a discussion on this. I commented on something of Rudy Rubio's page. Like, that's where church hurt starts to happen. Sure. The lack of accountability when slander happens, when you let that fester on either side. Leaders are laymen. And so we just, it's the hardest thing. And I guess this shows how much we are not like God. This shows how God is infinitely powerful and infinitely wise and infinitely holy because he can love us so well. And we can't even love other Christians. Yeah. In ways that he loves us in very, like, infinite, awesome ways. And so, yeah.
Imputed righteousness much?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true, man. It's true.
Well,
I
think Big
I don't got anything else, man.
Yeah. I think Big Eva has sung. Anyway, Josh,
we spicy today, man.
We a little spicy.
You said last week I was off my game because of the accident.
Oh,
I
man.
I feel like came back with a vengeance.
Josh.
Like someone uncorked me.
All I'm thinking about is like some sort of Rocky 3 montage where Josh was like practicing.
I've been training,
episode.
dude. I have been training I've been training this whole week. You know, like yes, yeah. I was Rocky 1 last week. You know, I showed up, but I didn't win. Right? This is like Rocky against the Russian today.
Yeah, this is Rocky against Ivan Drago today.
Ivan Drago,
he's swinging for the fences. Anyway,
that's right.
Josh,
get us out of here, everybody.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you appreciate Josh and I's centrality on the local church and how to better love your brothers and sisters in your local church, you too can follow us more on the Reformatory on the various dumpster fires called social media, the sociables, as we call them. You can follow us on the Metaverse, the Facebook. You can follow us on the Instagram. Goes well with chocolate and marshmallow. Or you can find us on the Piece de Resistance, the Tweaker, the Twitter, the Little Bluebird site, Muskerville. It's
where all the drama happens.
It's the apocalypse to end all sociable sites, if you will. Anyway, you can follow us all on those sociable sites. Talk to us. If you have questions, hit us a DM, anything along those lines. If you have questions, if you want to interact with us on those sociable sites, you can follow us at Reformatory Pod. Josh, you can tell the lovely people how they might be able to continue to support our endeavor to make the local church central into the believer's life, if you will.
Absolutely. There are a few ways. First, if you are listening to this podcast on a platform that allows you to rate the podcast and review the podcast, we ask that you do. We know it is a fact, and this isn't slander. This isn't slander. This is truth.
Yeah.
We know we have many more listeners than we have reviews. So if you are one of those individuals, please take this as a gentle, I won't even say rebuke, a gentle encouragement, if you will, to be the longtime listener, first-time reviewer. And give us a little rating and review on Spotify or Apple or, again, wherever you listen. That would really, really help us out. Helps get the podcast out to more people. Little 5 stars for 5 solas. Last but definitely not least, we have a Patreon. And on this Patreon is exclusive content. If you like this episode, then you'll love the exclusive content. This is your formal invitation to the Podluck. That's right.
Yeah.
You heard that right.
Oh,
the Podluck. Exclusive content, baby.
Exclusive.
You get this episode. You would have already heard this episode, right? You would have heard this back on Tuesday, right? Plus, you get 2 extra bonus episodes every stinking week. You get exclusive videos that we post on there, pictures, exclusive access not only to the content, but exclusive access to Jack and I as human beings. So if that's something that you feel like you need more of in your life, for a $5 holla, that is it, $5 a month, you too could become a Patreon supporter, and our pledge to you is that your name shall be hallowed.
Hallowed, sir. Hallowed.
Hallowed through the halls of this podcast. That is our pledge to you. We thank you all for listening. We love every single one of you. Don't slander. Don't be one of those folks. We will catch you on the next step of the Reformatory.